And then dealing with the trauma of losing, an amazing tiny little baby, and just watching that devastation unfold and everything happening.
Gordon Ramsay has faced death threats, lawsuits, and near bankruptcy, but nothing prepared him for 2016. In June 2016, Gordon Ramsay held the tiniest coffin he had ever seen. Inside was his son, Rocky, born at just 20 weeks. Too small to live, too perfect to forget. He had built restaurants across continents, earned Michelin stars, and survived scandals that could have ended anyone's career. But nothing prepared him for this kind of silence. The silence of a father with no cry to follow. Years later, Gordon said quietly, "We wouldn't have Oscar without losing Rocky first." The line puzzled many. What did he mean? The answer lies in 18 months of failed IVF treatments, a scandal in 2008 that nearly destroyed his marriage, and a kind of grief that fame could never hide. Because before he became the world's toughest chef, Gordon Ramsay was just a man trying to rebuild his family, one heartbreak at a time. Gordon James Ramsay was born on November 8, 1966, in Johnstone, Scotland, into a home that rarely knew peace. His mother, Helen, worked double shifts as a nurse to keep the family afloat, while his father, Gordon Sr., drifted between jobs and bottles, turning every setback into a storm of violence. Broken furniture, screaming nights, and blood on the kitchen floor. Those were the constants of his childhood. The family moved endlessly, fleeing unpaid rent and his father's temper. Each move a silent admission that safety never lasted. At 9, Gordon found his first refuge, a small Indian restaurant where he washed dishes after school. In that kitchen, everything made sense. There was heat, noise, order, and nobody hit you for it. By 12, he discovered football. It gave him focus, pride, and the illusion of control. He trained for hours, made it into the Warwickshire youth team, even caught the eye of scouts for Glasgow Rangers, his father's favorite team. But his father never showed up to a single match. At 16, after one particularly violent night, Gordon packed a small bag and left home. He moved in with his sister Diane in Banbury, his first real taste of peace. That night, he swore two things. He'd never be poor again, and he'd never touch alcohol. He kept both vows. Leaving home wasn't rebellion, it was survival, and it was the moment that turned pain into purpose, the beginning of a fire that would one day make him both feared and admired across the world. But perhaps the most powerful transformation came later, because growing up without a safe home taught Gordon the value of building one. He had seen what a broken father could do to a family, and he swore his children would never live that story. Behind the fury and the perfectionism that made him famous was a quiet vow. His kids would never have to learn when to speak or when to disappear. No broken doors, no drunken nights, no fear. Before the world knew him as the most feared chef alive, Gordon Ramsay dreamed of something very different: a football field, a crowd roaring, and a jersey that could lift him out of everything he'd survived. For years, he chased football as his way out, the only thing that made sense in a house built on chaos. Playing for Glasgow Rangers wasn't just ambition. It was a chance to be someone his father might finally be proud of. But when the doctor said the words career-ending injury, his father didn't comfort him. No, he laughed. That laugh stayed with him, sharper than the scalpel that fixed his knee. In that instant, something inside Gordon shifted. If life had closed the door to the field, he would kick open another one. And the kitchen, as brutal as any stadium, became his new arena. He enrolled at North Oxfordshire Technical College, studying hotel management by day and scrubbing pots by night. It wasn't glamour, it was survival in another form. Heat, burns, shouting, but also discipline. For the first time, pain had a purpose. Then came the mentors: Marco Pierre White, Albert Roux, Joel Robuchon, Guy Savoy, men who ruled their kitchens like warlords. Under them, Gordon learned what obsession looked like. 16-hour days, pans flying, plates smashed. At Harvey's, Marco once threw a pan at his head. Gordon hid in the corner and cried. In Paris, Robuchon hurled a scorching plate at him for undersalting the soup. Another night, he was locked in a freezer for 30 minutes as punishment for ruining a sauce. Each humiliation hardened him. He stopped crying. He stopped doubting. Every insult became fuel, every burn a reminder that he would never again be powerless. The frightened boy from Johnstone was dying, and a new version of him was taking shape, one built from precision and fury. By 1993, at just 27, he was head chef at Aubergine in Chelsea. The restaurant exploded into London's fine dining scene. Within 2 years, 2 Michelin stars. Critics called him brilliant. Staff whispered that he was terrifying. The rage that once came from fear had turned into command. And then came 1998, the year Gordon Ramsay rewrote culinary history. When the owners of Aubergine pushed him to cut costs, he refused. They threatened to replace him. So he staged a coup. One night, he walked out, and 39 of his 40 staff followed. He even took the restaurant's booking book, worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. He was sued for £1 million. He countersued and won £1.5 million. That same year, he opened Restaurant Gordon Ramsay in Chelsea, built on the ruins of his old mentor's La Tante Claire. Within 3 years, it would earn 3 Michelin stars, the ultimate badge of perfection. The boy who grew up hiding under tables now ruled the most powerful kitchens in Britain. He had fought his way out of poverty, out of humiliation, out of his father's shadow. But success, like fire, has 2 sides, one that cooks and one that burns. By the end of the 90s, Gordon Ramsay was no longer just a chef. He was a brand. London's elite whispered his name. Television cameras followed his temper. Restaurant Gordon Ramsay held 3 Michelin stars. His protégés were opening kitchens across Europe, and every headline called him the new face of British cuisine. But fame has a way of turning men into their own caricatures, and Gordon was no exception. His empire expanded faster than he could control it. Patras, Vare in Dubai, a chain of restaurants that stretched from London to Singapore. By 2025, the Ramsay Group would count more than 80 establishments and a fortune of over $220 million. The numbers dazzled, but behind them was exhaustion. He wasn't just running kitchens anymore. He was performing for the world. Cameras replaced customers. The flame on the stove became the glare of the spotlight. Television made him immortal, in boiling point. In 1999, introduced Britain to the man who could make grown chefs cry. Then came Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, MasterChef, Next Level Chef. Each show turned his fury into entertainment, his insults into catchphrases. Idiot Sandwich became a meme. Rage became marketable. But the world that loved his fire also loved to watch it burn. And behind the cameras, the cracks widened. He was caught making crude jokes about women. In 2002, a DUI arrest stripped him of his license, a cruel echo of the father he swore he'd never resemble. A contestant accused him of shoving her on set and won a $120,000 settlement. Tabloids exposed that his fresh food empire had quietly relied on frozen ingredients. The word hypocrite followed him everywhere. Then 2008 hit, and the empire nearly fell. The global financial crash tore through the hospitality industry, and for the first time, Gordon Ramsay's fire began to consume him. Debts rose from £4 million to nearly £10 million. Tax bills stacked higher than the profits. He sold his Ferrari. His father-in-law mortgaged his own house and injected $5 million just to keep the business alive. For a man who had built his entire persona on control, that dependence cut deep. The tabloids called it Ramsay's meltdown. He called it survival. He filmed through the chaos, shouting through kitchen nightmares while his real-life empire smoldered. Every outburst on screen looked like entertainment, but behind it was fear. Fear of losing everything he'd fought to escape. Poverty, powerlessness, insignificance. At home, the cost was quieter but crueler. Missed birthdays, missed milestones. His children grew up on camera while he was halfway across the world. The man who had sworn to never repeat his father's mistakes was now living a different version of them. Absence not from violence, but from ambition. By the time the storm passed, the empire still stood, slimmer, harder, and scarred. But Gordon Ramsay wasn't the same. The numbers improved, the stars remained, the cameras kept rolling. Yet something had gone out in his eyes. Now, he had won every battle but nearly lost the war that mattered most. Because in chasing perfection, Gordon Ramsay came dangerously close to burning down the very thing he'd built to protect, his family. And soon, one tragedy would force him to face that truth in the most brutal way imaginable. Long before the Michelin stars and television fame, Gordon Ramsay had something far simpler, a family that grounded him. He married Tana Hutchison in 1996, a woman whose calmness quietly steadied his storms. While Gordon built empires in the kitchen, Tana raised their 4 children. When their first daughter, Megan, was born in 1998, he wasn't there. He was cooking for a celebrity client. Then came Jack and Holly, the twins, in 2000, and Matilda, known as Tilly, in 2001. 4 children, each growing up with a father who was more familiar on TV than at the dinner table. Still, Tana held the family together. She played both parents while Gordon chased perfection across time zones. There were rumors, of course, alleged affairs, staff gossip, stories of a secret life on the road. In 2008, one tabloid even printed pages of supposed text messages between Gordon and another woman. He denied them publicly, but at home, the silence was different. They stopped eating together. He stopped asking how her day was. The man who once built empires from fire was now watching the smallest cracks open in his own house. Until 2016. Tana was 20 weeks pregnant with their 5th child, a boy they'd already named Rocky. For the first time in years, Gordon slowed down. He canceled shoots, cleared his schedule, and promised he'd be there for every moment this time. This one, he told Tana, will be different. But one June morning, everything changed. Tana started bleeding. The drive to the hospital was silent. Machines beeped, nurses whispered, and the look in the doctor's eyes said everything before the words came. Rocky was born too early. A single pound of life, too fragile for this world. Gordon held him in his hands. Small, weightless, perfect. For less than an hour, he was a father holding his son. And then, just silence. "There's no manual," Gordon said later. "No book that tells you how to hold your child knowing he won't take a breath." The man who had survived his father's fists, who had conquered the world through willpower and rage, finally broke. Not with shouting, but with stillness. He sat beside his wife and held her hand, realizing that for the first time in his life, there was nothing he could fix. No recipe, no order, just grief. In the weeks that followed, the house felt foreign. Cameras were off, kitchens were cold. Gordon wore a bracelet engraved with Rocky and planted a tree in their garden, a living memory where words failed. For years, Tana couldn't speak about it. She once whispered, "The guilt never leaves, even when you know it's not your fault." And Gordon, he carried the silence differently. He stopped hiding behind fury. He began coming home earlier. He cooked breakfast for his kids. He listened. He laughed more softly. It took 2 years and multiple IVF attempts before their son Oscar arrived in 2019. Gordon was 52, older, quieter, humbler. "We wouldn't have Oscar," he said, "without losing Rocky first. He's not a replacement, he's a connection." The loss of Rocky didn't just break him, it redefined him. It cracked open the armor that fame had built and reminded him what mattered. For all the Michelin stars, all the screaming kitchens, and all the headlines, now love was the only thing that ever truly cooked him raw. Behind the shouting, the perfectionism, and the fire that made him famous, there's still a father who sometimes sits alone, rubbing his thumb over a tiny bracelet engraved with his son's name. A man who built an empire out of fire, but learned love through ashes. By 2024, Gordon Ramsay had survived nearly everything a man could: poverty, humiliation, betrayal, and the unbearable loss of a child. Yet life had one more test to give him. It happened on an ordinary morning in Connecticut. He was cycling down a quiet country road when a car turned too close. There was no time to brake. The impact threw him across the asphalt. His helmet shattered, his ribs cracked, his left shoulder was crushed. When he finally stood again, he looked like a man decades older. "I looked like a 95-year-old granddad," he later said.